So my sons were those kids that played football for me.
Hey, here's a coach that sees something in me that maybe nobody else sees.
I've used this rock to reflect on my life. Unless I can't get out of that bed, I'm going to be there.
You're there, and it's not easy for you to be there.
And I love you.
That's a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people have given up.
And when he does talk about it, he can hardly bring himself together.
He did that with you and your brother. You're doing that with your daughters, and that'll continue for generations.
He loved his players.
He loved his players.
By far.
That's a generational decision.
They quit.
They quit.
Because they don't have that support system.
Hey everybody, back in the early fall of 2023, I had the privilege of interviewing Coach Brett Yancey. And about a week after our interview, Brett's daughter was named the homecoming queen at her high school. Brett, who struggled for the past 7 years with a debilitating health issue, made it a point that he was going to walk across the field with Sarah Kate. The visual of that was picked up by the national news media, and since that time, Brett and his family have been covered by a lot of national outlets. But in this interview, you're going to hear some inside stories of Brett's life. The story of his dad, which is just an incredible story that I think will inspire a lot of people. The story of his high school coach and something he did. And then finally, I've been told that we should give Kleenex warnings. So our purpose is not to make people cry, but you need to get your Kleenex out for this one. Our purpose is to inspire people to know that you can pull through, you can make it, you can flip the script on your family situation. And Brett and his dad have shown that. So I hope that you'll be inspired and moved as much as I was. Go get your Kleenex and enjoy this interview. Welcome to another episode of That's My Dad. Brett Yancey here with us. Welcome to the program, Brett.
Thanks, sir.
Man, appreciate you coming in. Tell us about your football coaching career. Let's go back a little farther than that, though. When did you get interested in football itself?
Well, first of all, I was raised by a long-time high school football coach. My father was just they call him in Glencoe the original Coach Yancey. And so when you say Coach Yancey in Glencoe, people are talking about my father and not me. And so as I come along later on and became the coach there, I was just an assistant. I worked under Lee Osmond as his offense coordinator. And so, my coaching tree starts all the way back to Pell City, Alabama. And I was able to work 4 years there as a assistant coach, and that's when I got my start into coaching high school ball. And I coached quarterbacks and running backs. We were in a more of an shotgun option team, and so I had played quarterback in high school and run some option offense, so I was very familiar with the offense that we were trying to put together at Pell City. Long story short, I ended up getting a phone call one Sunday. Carrie can attest, my wife can attest, that Coach Gene Johnson called, and we were just happened to be here in Gadsden visiting Carrie's parents. And he was trying to hire Carrie and I away from Pell City to be kind of come as a group. And Carrie was going to coach the softball team, and I was going to help out in football and basketball. And so that's kind of how we got to Etowah County, was through way of Gene Johnson. And here we are, some 20... long time.
So you coached at you coached at Glencoe High School where your dad had been?
I started at Pell City, came to Southside.
High School.
Football coach at Southside. Resigned, went to Glencoe, Coach Osmond hired me at Glencoe as offense coordinator, and then I worked there for 9 years, and then came back to Southside. When I came back to Southside, I didn't coach football. I coached softball.
Okay.
I have 3 daughters that went to Southside, and so me having daughters, I had coached softball previously, and so I did softball to be with them.
Oh, really?
And that was one way I was able to spend time with my girls.
Okay.
I have all girls, so I didn't get the experience of coaching a son and football. So my sons were those kids that played football for me.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. We've reached out to some of those guys, and you're really highly respected and appreciated among your former players. What are some of the things you did that you feel like made the difference between you, just Coach Yancey, the football coach, and Coach Yancey, the father figure?
Well, the biggest thing I did as a coach is I used it as a mission field. I felt like God had put me in a situation not only to make an influence, but make a spiritual influence. And so I did that when I got here, and the Lord opened up an opportunity for me to be able to do so. And so I usually gravitated to the children or the players that, did not have, a big background in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the kids I migrated to.
You just kind of had a natural inclination to reach out to those guys.
I had a natural inclination to reach those kids, talk to them, put my arm around them, love them.
Well, how is it that you recognize? Is there something when you walk into a room full of football players? Is it easy for you to recognize which kids have a dad at home and which ones don't, or do you kind of learn that as you go?
You kind of learn that as you go through learning each kid. As you're coaching, you could try to get to know them.
What kind of things do you think the kids struggle with? The guys who are from what we call father deficient homes. What are the extra challenges you think those guys have to deal with?
Well, they have to deal with a lot. A lot of it is just basic transportation.
Just practical stuff,
just
logistics.
Getting there, and so a lot of my ministry was going and picking up kids for practice.
Wow.
I would drive around and go get them, and they would ride with me to practice, and that's usually when we had just our, weekly talks about anything, and anything goes. They would ask me anything. I was young enough where they felt comfortable around me.
Yeah.
And I started at an early age. I was a head football coach at Southside at 27.
Really?
And so those kids felt connected to a coach where they could say anything they wanted to say, and they were in a safe environment. And that helped me be able to get across a point, where I probably, crossed the line by using Jesus so much. That in education they didn't want us to do that, but I'm not one to follow rules. So when it comes to my Lord and Savior, I'm going to lean towards, pushing Him.
You have any regrets for that?
Not a bit.
Not a bit. So what were there things that you did? You'd go pick them up and you'd talk. Were there things that you intentionally did other than that to try to?
There were different things that took place. I remember an incident one time at Glencoe. I was walking out to practice, and I knew I had a kid that was a borderline player. He may not ever see the field, but he may. He may just play special teams. He was like, "Coach, I want this to happen for me." And I said, "Well, it's going to happen, but it's going to take work to make it happen. It's not going to be given to you." And so he learned then that, I'm going to have to do something to earn this respect from my teammates and my coaches. And he did, even though all he did was play special teams. And I told him, I said, "Look, special teams is another way that you can become in the limelight, and you're going to be able to use that platform one day you may be able to tell this story that reaches another kid.
Yeah.
And he's going to tell it to somebody else that reaches another kid. And it's going to be passed down. You never know. So people are always watching you.
To that kid, was that a symbol of, hey, here's a coach that sees something in me that maybe nobody else sees?
Exactly.
You think maybe he reflected on that later in life when, we all have those doubts that we're not worthy of something?
He told me that.
Really?
Said that. He really did.
Other things you might have done. We had I believe it was Drew Noles said that he used to take his players on 100-yard walks, I believe it was. Did you do?
Pre-game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of pre-game walks with different kids, whether it be my quarterback or my receiver or whoever was going to have to play a major role in the ball game according to our game plan. And so, I'd take a different walk, put my arm around them, try to ease their mind,
Yeah.
make them realize, hey, this is not quite as big of a game as you think it is.
So we were talking before we went live about how us old, and I was just a high school player. I didn't get to play in college, but how us old players remember.
Oh, yeah.
And there's jokes our wives make about our memories, but we remember those plays that happened in the third quarter of our junior year,
right,
with so many minutes left on the clock and so forth. But don't we also remember things that coaches did for us that were totally unrelated to football, Phil?
Yeah, definitely. I remember a story I can tell you. I know Coach Mintz was one of the ones done earlier, where he was also my high school football coach. And one Saturday morning, we had played Southside on a Friday night, and he was going for it on fourth down. And he was going to send me in a drop back pass. And what happened was they sent a corner blitz. I got hit, fumbled, they scored, kicked the extra point, and took the lead. And so I felt like, I lost the ball game. Well, the next morning, I get a phone call from Coach Mintz, and he's right outside my house.
At your house? He came
at my house. He
personal
drove
residence
and picked me up. And we just took a ride. And he said, hop in. So we got in his truck, and we just started riding around town and just talking.
You're a high school quarterback, and it's Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
Your coach comes to your house and just picks you up.
Yep. And we go for a ride, and he explains his whole sentiment behind why he wanted to run another play and not punt it. And so he explained to me his thoughts, and it made sense. And, I never questioned him. And so I would have never questioned him anyway. And that's just how we were, the way I was raised. You don't question the coaches.
Yeah, that's the way it's done in our day.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially mine. But it made an impression on you that he cared enough. I mean, he could have been off doing his thing, doing interviews, looking at film, whatever.
Yeah, he could have been doing a lot of things.
He didn't have to come pick you up.
No.
But was he doing that because he felt bad about the way it had happened, or
I don't know.
He just wanted to spend some time with you?
He could have just been led to do that.
Wow. But that's stuck in your mind all this time.
Stuck in my mind. I remember like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And those are things that coaches do that try to make a difference. He could have easily just said, I ain't going to go see him. I mean,
yeah,
let him take the blame for it.
Yeah.
Instead, he took the blame.
He took up for you.
Yeah.
Wow. That speaks highly. Let's talk about your dad. Your dad was a coach for what, 20-some years? Something?
He started in 1969 at Jacksonville High School and moved to Glencoe in 74 and worked for Coach Darnell as his defensive coordinator, and then became the next head coach there after Coach Darnell left.
Mm-hmm.
And he in like 81 he became the head coach and was through like 85, 86 season.
Yeah.
And so my memories of my dad, my fondest memories are one being his ball boy. where I ran the ball out on the field every game, and 2, I was home every Friday night when he finally got home after washing all the uniforms and doing the little things behind the scenes that people don't think gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And sat in his lap and we watched film.
Really?
And I remember getting to watch the old real projector where you hit the button and it goes whoa,
yeah,
backwards and then whoa,
yeah,
forwards.
I watched a lot of those.
It's actually the greatest clarity of film watching.
I watched way too much of that.
Yeah. It's a great way. We busted out a few years ago. We busted out that real projector and watched the game just to see what it was like. And you could really watch great film because you could stop that thing exactly where you wanted to.
Yeah, it would click as it was rolling.
Yeah, you click backwards and then you hit it again, it clicks forward. You hit it again, it clicked backwards.
The only thing I remember is on film day, which was Sunday for us, if you ever made a mistake, it was going to get ran over and over and over, and you'd go backwards. And then show you going backwards and show you going forward, and everybody's laughing and whatever.
We did the same thing.
So your dad would let you sit in his lap, and y'all would watch the game. Do you remember?
We were in our living room. Back when houses built the living room in the front of the house.
Yeah.
To where when people come in the door, there's no TV in there.
Yeah.
People come in the door, and yet they would visit. Just a visitation room's all it was. Old living room, nobody ever really used them. Well, he used it to watch film. So I'd sit in his lap and watch film over and over and over. So that's really where I learned to watch the ball game, how to watch film. I was 3, 4, 5 years old during this time.
I was going to ask you how old you were, and you still remember that. Those are fond memories.
Fond memories.
Did you get to go to practice and hang out?
I was the kid that was over there picking on the old high school kids because I knew my dad would protect me. I would run by and, do things, kick them in the area and take off, that kind of thing,
So, I mean, that's cool. That's one of the things that a lot of the coaches have told me, that coaches spend a lot of time. It's consuming.
Astronomical amount.
I had a guy tell me yesterday he's not going to fall into the rabbit hole of coaching because it consumes your life, really.
It does.
But they find a way to involve their kids, and I think that's an awesome thing that he was able to do. And you're, 40, 50 years later, those are still some of the fondest memories of your life. Yeah. And, the thing I want to point out about that is it's not complicated.
No.
You just take your kid and let him hang out with you.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably didn't make that a formal thing and probably didn't sit down and have life lesson conferences with you. You were just out there having fun, hanging out with Dad.
Exactly.
What kind of father was he? He's obviously a good football coach. You got to hang around.
He was a very loving father. He grew up in a situation that most people shouldn't grow up in, and his father was not good, not a very good man. And so he was bound to determine that my brother and I were going to be raised by somebody that loved them. And somebody that spent extra time with them. And so we got extra time with our dad because of that he wanted to make sure he knew that he loved us.
What do you think flipped in his mind to help? We call those guys script flippers. They changed the trajectory. And so now he did that with you and your brother. You're doing that with your daughters, and that'll continue for generations. But in a lot of families, somebody has to step up and say, I'm going to be the one that changes that. What do you think?
Exactly.
What was in his mind? Did something happen? Has he ever talked to you about that, or was it just?
No, he's very quiet about what happened in his childhood. So he didn't talk about it very much. And when he does talk about it, he can hardly bring himself together.
Wow, but he made a decision. I think that's the thing we want kids to hear. When I say kids, I'm talking about young men, that, Brett's dad had it rough, but he made a decision to change it, and that's a generational decision.
It is.
One of the things that one of our objectives here is to break those cycles of generational fatherlessness. And what I found is
there's no secret formula.
No.
It's not like you have to go to a seminar, read a book, or anything. It's just a matter of, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the one in my family who breaks that generational cycle, who breaks that curse, and the generations to come are going to be, I had a grandfather like that. So, my grandfather was an orphan. So, but they made a choice so that my life has been better.
Right.
And guys like your dad are to be honored and appreciated because they made that choice and they've passed it down and affected generations. Are there any stories that you can think about your dad, some little incident?
Well, there's things he used to make fun of me about, as far as I was the kid at home that pulled out a Cheetos box. Y'all remember the old Cheetos box? It came in a cylinder box. Well, I had marbles in there. So I would sit for hours, my dad said, and I would pull out those marbles, and I would put them in different positions and play a ball game with them, even when I was 3 years old. As young as that age was, I'd set them up in a defensive set. I'd get them in an offensive set. I'd draw them up where
they were X's and O's.
Oh, I'm X's and O's all the way. Learning them at 3 years old. Dad would say, hey, son, he's in a 3 technique. 3 years old, and I'm looking at him like, a 3 technique? What is that? So I learned a lot from my dad, and it was just him taking the time really to spend with me. That was a big ordeal.
Did he ever help you to set the marbles up and design plays?
I already knew how to do that. I was in practice every day.
So did you pay attention to what he was?
I paid close attention
to everything he taught the guys.
Everything they taught.
What do you think he did as a coach that was special?
He loved his players.
He loved his players
by far. Now he coached hard, and I'm not going to say he didn't get in their face and get all after them and make them motivate them and do the old 70s ways of coaching. And you know what I mean by
grass drills.
Yeah, grass drills. And he'd get down there with them, turn his hat around backwards. And, I've seen him forearm shiver kids to the ground. And, this is how you're going to do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And you're going to come across and you're going to hit this kid, And so I thought, man, this kind of stuff you get fired for today.
Back in the day, coach would line up and whack you.
It'd knock you flat on your back. And so that changed in our generation, so that's not something I was able to do. But I do coach in similar ways where I would raise and get on a kid, but follow it up with love.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
And that was huge.
You feel like we're in a cultural shift where that's becoming coaches are realizing that needs to happen?
I think we are in a slow shift of doing that. And some of these coaches nowadays they're learning a little bit about how it is a mission field.
Yeah.
Step back and look at it, and let's say, hey, let's not worry about wins and losses. Let's worry about winning lives.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing with me. Is winning lives of these young men. And the more you do that, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, I think so. What would you want to say? Well, and first of all, we're hoping a lot of your former players will see this. What's your message to them? What's the one or two things
the first thing is I'm proud of them. A lot of them have been very successful. There have been, there's been some that become youth pastors, some that become doctors, some that become, nurses or whatever it may be. And it just makes you swell with pride to see what they've become in their lives and how they, I'll give you an example. Recently at a few county basketball tournaments, I've had players come back that have had children. And, man, it's all they can do to come they're so excited to come introduce their children to me.
Wow. Wanted to meet the coach.
Yeah. This is my coach, from when I played high school ball.
That says you had an impact on them. It's something that was important to them.
Oh, yeah. and we had great relationships, and they could come to me for anything. You know, that was one thing I pride myself on, was making those kids feel comfortable enough to come and tell me if there's something going on that I need to come help them.
So you had 6 years ago, you had a health crisis, and you're still struggling with that. Tell us about that, and I want to know what the reaction of your players has been there.
What's happened was, and I turned 41. I was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and the Lord has blessed me to now that I'm about to start my 7th year in this fight. Now, it ain't been easy. It's a war every day. I have to get up and tell myself, you got to fight today. My wife has to tell me, Brett, I need you to fight for me and the girls. And so, you know, it's an emotional roller coaster because we have days where we feel like, you know, the cancer is we got it under control, and then we have days where we feel like, you know, it's why? Why is it not gone, Lord? Why? I've been faithful to do what you asked me to do. Why is it not gone? And so it's an emotional roller coaster for me, and it has been on my entire family. My girls are athletes, and they don't understand what's wrong with Daddy. Why is Daddy, you know, just don't feel good? Why is Daddy throwing up? Why is Daddy this or that? And they get to see firsthand, which I wish they couldn't. Because they have, they're going to be stronger for it.
Last week we talked, and it's actually been, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I said, well, could you come into the studio on a certain day? And you said, well, I need to check on something. And that something was your daughter's, I believe it was volleyball schedule.
Exactly.
And you told me, you said, I won't miss a game.
No.
What does it mean to you as a dad, and what do you think it means to your daughters that you're there, and it's not easy for you to be there?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just, for the sake of those who don't know, we had to help you into the studio today. It's
Correct.
A struggle.
It is.
You're in constant pain. You're telling me it's like having a stinger constantly in your day. But you've made it a point to not miss.
No, I'm not gonna miss. This is my baby girl's senior year, and unless I can't get out of that bed, I'm gonna be there.
Wow.
And may have to take a lot of pain medication to get there, but I'm gonna get there.
Oh, that's so encouraging.
Because I don't want to miss anything she does. I want her to know I'm gonna be there for her.
Like your dad was there for you.
Exactly.
I want to give you a chance to your dad's still living?
Yes.
I want to give you a chance to do something. A lot of guys think this is a little strange, but as men, we don't openly express ourselves too well. I'm going to give you a chance to look into this camera and just address your dad as if he were right here. What do you want to say to your dad?
Well, first of all, I'd say thank you. Thank you for the man you are. For the Christian man you are. Dad, you have shown me things in life that are going to be eternal forever. And I thank you for that. It is an honor to be your son. You are an example for people all through the community of Glencoe. And I've never once heard anybody say a cross word about who you are. Everybody that I've ever met in Glencoe says, man, your dad is top notch. And man, that'll make you feel good as a kid to hear that your dad is top notch. And most of those guys played football for him. And I'm sure he was an assistant principal, so he did discipline. and he's paddled most of them. And for them to say, I still love your dad, is a big thing.
So those of us who are blessed with that kind of legacy, and I am as well, I think what I want to communicate is that if you're a dad out there, you need to understand that you set the tone for your kid's life. Just like your dad set the tone. Every step you take, you were Coach Yancey's son.
That's right.
And that was something to be proud of.
That's right.
I'm Norris Hilton's son, and that's something to be proud of. It's good to – the best thing you can pass down to your kids is a good name.
That's right.
I think. And so you and I have both been blessed. So thanks for sharing that. You might want to share something too with, there might be somebody out there that's going through a crisis, a health crisis, and you've hung in there. You've had to fight.
Oh, it's been a war.
Any words of encouragement you'd like to share with those folks?
Yeah. For those of you who are going through something, know that God is your hope. And I'll be honest with you, without his hope and a great support system, and what I mean by support system is your parents. My mom and dad are devout Christian. My wife, my children, they're all saved. And that's huge when it comes to a family of us that are saved, and you know where they're going. And that's a blessing in itself. Just want to say you can make it. It's all about fight and how strong you are. I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story. When I was in MD Anderson about a year and a half ago, I just come out of a surgery where they removed my esophagus and cut out half of my small intestine and made that my esophagus. And they removed my stomach, and my stomach was about the size of my thumb or my thumbnail. So there's just a few juices in there that my stomach produces to help my intestines break down my food. And then when I come out of that surgery, I was struggling mightily. And God has given me the strength to fight through that. And I want to tell you guys, you can survive. You can fight. And my wife did something for me. I was in ICU on a vent. And I was ready to quit. And I looked at her and told her, I'm done. I'm ready to go. And she leaned over the bed and grabbed me by the arm, and she said, you're a winner. Nothing but a winner. And what you're going to do is win against cancer. And, she said that to me, and I was like, you know what? I've never been nothing but a winner. This is just another game that I'm going to fight my way through and figure out how to win and become a winner.
Wow. So that's a message, man. That's a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people have given up.
Yeah, they quit.
They quit
because they don't have that support system.
What would you say to coaches? Do you miss coaching?
Oh, every day.
Well, this has not been something that you wanted, obviously,
No.
the sickness. And it's probably changed a little bit your perspective on coaching and an opportunity. What do you say to the coaches out there still coaching? As you look back on all that's happened to you, what kind of words of advice or inspiration would you offer?
Well, I tell them, look, it's not about you. It ain't about you. It's about your kids. It's about your players. I'm a firm believer that when I became a coach, my playing days were over. I told my players I'm never going to throw another completion. I'm never going to fumble a ball. I'm never going to make a play. It's y'all. y'all are the kids that are the next generation. So you want those kids to know, hey, y'all, it is y'all. Y'all gonna get the credit. And in today's world, these kids need to know that. They need to know they're gonna get the credit for the wins, and I'll take the blames for the losses. And they need to know you love them.
So,
that's one thing I said to my kids before I left every day. Every one of them, that I loved them. And I think that's what stuck with my players the most. It's their coaches were able to say, hey, you know what, I love you. And I give them a hug. And I say, if you ever need me, call me.
Wow. They were fortunate to have you.
Yeah.
Fortunate to have you.
I was fortunate to have them, too.
You're right.
I had the fortunate ability to coach a really good football team when I was at Glencoe, and I had some at Pell City. And my kids at Pell City is where I started. They still call me today, and that's been almost 30 years ago. And Southside. Yeah, I have one of my former players. Y'all may know him. His name's Kyle Routon. He played at Southside, and he's got a birthday today. So I found his phone and sent him a happy birthday today.
You remember? I mean, you probably coached hundreds of players, and you still remember birthdays of guys from 15 years ago.
Well, some of them.
But that says something. Even if it's, I mean, there's no way you can remember all of them.
No.
But the fact that you remember at least one former player's birthday is pretty incredible. I don't know.
He and I work very close, and we just built a very good relationship. And I was very proud of him, and I did kind of step in that role for him and play into a father figure role. And it was really been a blessing because we get along so close together, and he's just a good kid.
Yeah,
he just is.
We're all fortunate to have. I can name some coaches that I had same way. What would you like for your players to say about you?
That when they played for me, that they were getting a genuine person that loved them.
What would you want your daughters to say about you?
Now that's a tough question. I would want them to say that they love their dad more than anything on the face of the earth, and that I love them even more.
So I told you that we were going to do something that's not going to come as a total surprise to you, but we have a tradition here of collecting some information about you. It's a little bit of a background check. We do that for some different reasons. One is we want to make sure that the guys on the That's My Dad podcast have been great dads, because we want to set you out as an example. And so we ask your daughters what they thought about you as a dad. But another reason is, and the biggest reason for me, is because I want young men who may be young fathers or are going to be a father one day, I want them to look and see, hey, this is how it can be. This is how things can turn out. And finally, these little video tributes we give they're kind of a way of saying, hey, thumbs up, Brett.
Yeah.
You did a good job. So we reached out, and I want to share this with you. We reached out to a couple of players and to your family, and they made a little video tribute to you. It's a gift from us and them to you to say, hey, good job, Dad. Appreciate you. So Colin's going to share those with you.
Even at the time where I wasn't thinking about it, I think back on it now, and I realize how important having that kind of figure in your life is. And I've been blessed to have a couple of people like that, but you even more important than others, that it's just constantly something that you think back on, and I can't tell you how lucky I was to have somebody like you that was just always around, that was a good coach, was a guy that I trusted and that I loved, and somebody that just led by example, that y'all weren't afraid to say the truth, y'all weren't afraid to keep us accountable, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people are missing now, and it's something that I fall back on a regular basis in just everyday life, that the lessons that y'all gave to us or that y'all taught us through a sport would have such a lasting effect on the man that I want to be on my day-to-day life. And like I said, I'm just incredibly grateful to have been around you and to have you as an example. And I just hope that one day I can be that example to somebody, that example to my kids. If, God forbid, if I started coaching, I hope I could follow in your footsteps and just be that leader figure that you were for me. And I can't tell you how grateful I am, and the long-lasting effects of just you being you and leading by example have left on my life. And I just can't thank you enough, Coach, and I love you.
Influence. The ability to affect the behavior of others in a particular direction, leveraging key tactics to involve, connect, and inspire them. Brett Yancey. Also known as Coach to many of us that have played for him, he is a true leader on as well as off the field. Just like many other kids that have got to see what Coach expected on the field, and while he knows through his own hard work and determination while coaching and studying film, I feel I'm extremely blessed to get another side of Coach. While like possibly many other hundreds or even thousands of kids, we all learn many life lessons from Coach on the field that I personally still carry and use to this day. I credit Coach Yancey with giving me the ability to not only push through hard times, but to actually enjoy the process of the work to achieve what I want. Like most kids that played football, we learned discipline, work ethic, and most of all, we learned something worth having to all of these things, but it also took sacrifice. I saw this while Coach Yancey practiced what he preached, with endless hours of coaching and film study. The sacrifice part of the equation. Even though I wasn't that good at offense, or really defense either for that matter, Coach always stood by, if you want to play, you'd have to earn it. And that is a true life lesson.
Hey Dad, just wanted to tell you that I loved you, and I really just wanted to make this video so I could talk about some of my favorite memories of us. And to start off, my most favorite memory when I was a little girl was definitely getting to see you coach football at Glencoe, and after every single game, me and Sarah Kay running out on the field and jumping in your arms, and then as you walked back with your team back to the field house, me and Sarah Kay doing a million cartwheels all the way back and waiting on, and then playing on the field till you come out and we go home together. And then also you bringing the team home every Saturday and watching college football and getting to go to the mountains with everybody. That's definitely a fun memory I have of us during that time. But I would definitely say my favorite memory with us over all these years is definitely you getting to be my coach, but not only in softball, but in basketball and even volleyball, even though you weren't really my coach, but you were my coach. I can remember it like it was yesterday. We might have been banging heads with each other because I made my fifth foul or did something stupid. But at the same time, the next play, I'd do something good, and you were always there to pick me up and encourage me, and you always believed in me. You always told me how good I was and how I was the best player, and I know that you truly believe that, and I know that I get all of that from you and Mom. You were like my favorite person, my teddy bear, my hero, my everything. And I can definitely say from the moment I was born until now that I am a daddy's girl, and I will always be a daddy's girl. I just wanted to tell you that I love you, and I will always be your little girl.
Hey, Dad. This is us. Showered in pajamas, sweaty from church and work and practice. So this is real. And we don't have to paint a picture for you on the outside because you know our hearts. And that's what you love us for and always have. And I just want to say, you're my soulmate. You're my soulmate. I love you. And thank you for fighting for our family. I could talk for days about how you've influenced your football players, how you've influenced softball players, basketball players, kids in classrooms, just the people that you've always been around. You're just a people person. And today we just really reflect on what a warrior you are, what a hero you are to so many, and just what you mean to me and the girls. You're a fighter, of course, probably the best warrior that I know, and we love you so much.
Hey, Dad. I love you. You've been such a inspiration, I think, to all of us for sure. You know, you've always been a strong, godly man my whole life. But I think your true strength has really shown in the last 6 years. You know, and even though we've gone through this hard time, I think that it has really shown me, you know, really the true man you are and how much you have fought for us girls, and how strong you really are, you know, and just being reminded where your faith and your strength comes from and that it's from the Lord and that you tell us that every day. I'll take that with me my whole life. And you've made me who I am today. And I could go on and on some more as well, about the memories and so many ways you have influenced me. But yeah, we love you so much.
Hey, Dad. Oh, deep voice, sorry. I think you've definitely always been my hero from the beginning. Everybody's heroes is always Superman. And when people asked me when I was younger to write down on the paper who my hero was, it was always you. And it always will be. You definitely influenced my life a lot. I feel like I get a lot of things from you. My tender heart being one.
For sure.
Because you definitely have that one.
Yes, for sure.
I just love you more than anything. And I'll always be your baby girl. Thank you for everything. And for fighting for us.
Well, that was good.
Let me ask you something, Brett. For the guy who's watching or listening, and he thinks it's just too hard, and he's about to walk out on his kids, what does it feel like to have your daughter say you're my hero?
The greatest feeling ever. It's something you want to be as a father. And as a husband, you want your family to know that you'll do anything for them. And I think that's what they mean by hero. They know I'll do anything for them. And what a blessing. A powerful thing to have your kids talk about you.
Yeah. A couple of things your former players said. One of them said, if I was ever a coach, you'd be my example. And I'm sure he would include his dad, who was one of your fellow coaches. The other one said, it's been 10 years, and I know Coach still cares about me. So if you're a coach, learn something from this guy. I think we can learn from guys who struggled, and you're struggled health-wise, and you've set an example for all of us to follow. None of us have an excuse to get down and out. So thank you for all you've done as a coach, for all you've done as a husband, setting that example of what a warrior husband is, and thank you for being your daughter's hero.
Thank you. Thank you all for doing this.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Appreciate it.
That concludes this episode of That's My Dad, where we're inspiring fathers to become great dads, and we're seeking to break cycles of generational fatherlessness, just like Brett's dad did. We hope that everybody can be like Brett's dad. Break that cycle, and you'll get the reward of having your kids say, "Hey, Dad, you're my hero."